have here a Raspberry Pi, and it doesn't matter which one, but today I'm going to show you how to RDP from a Raspberry Pi to a Windows 10, either on the Raspberry Pi, either using a GUI or by command line. So you could type in a bunch of commands and RDP to your Windows 10. Okay. If you're doing a GUI RDP, if you're using a GUI, if you want to use a GUI to RDP from your Raspberry Pi to Windows 10, you can install what's called KRDC, which is included in any KDE distribution of Linux, or you can install remmina, R-E-M-M-I-N-A, and to do that you just type in apt-get install either KRDC or REMMINA, and those are, I'm not going to cover that in this video because those are pretty easy to use anyway. Okay, now what we're going to do here is we're going to do it by command line, and by command line you can either install our desktop or xfreerdp. I had a little trouble getting our desktop to connect to Windows 10 because of authentication and because of the libraries, a mess of libraries I had to install. But xfreerdp, I got that installed and I was able to connect to Windows 10 without any trouble. And to install it is just apt-get again, install freerdp, FREE-RDP, to that will install xfreerdp. Once you get it installed, the command is pretty long. It's xfreerdp, and you get the width and the height. Set the width and the height. Set the keyboard. Set the user. Set the bitrate, audio mode, sound system, and if you want to share your resources from your local hard drive to the remote resources into your remote machine. Any effects, video effects, certificate, and LAN, and the network connection. This is the speed of your connection. Either you're on a local machine, use LAN, or if you're remote, you got different settings. You can share the clipboard, and then finally the IP of the remote machine. For me, I'm using a local machine, but you can connect across the internet. So we'll break that up. We'll start with the screen resolution. I actually had mine set to much higher, 1900 lines by 1080, which I set to actually 1000. But in this explanation, I'll use 800 lines by 600 lines, which is standard Super VGA. Okay, so width. This is the command. This is the option here, the /W, not the minus, because minus means don't use and plus means do use. So they use a slash, which is the same as the plus, instead of the standard Unix switches, which is the minus. So they eliminated that. So for this they use a plus and minus and slash. So that's a screen resolution, pretty simple. Width and height. Color depth, you can set color depth by the option /BBP:24, which is 24 bits. The settings are 8, 16, 24, and 32. The lower bit rate, of course, 8 is 256 colors, and 16 is 16 million colors, I think. And the rest of them are much higher, which you probably won't use if you're using a remote machine. If you're connecting to a remote machine by modem, you probably want to use the lowest setting. If you're local, then you could use the higher setting. Like 24 is a good setting. I think 24 is 60 million colors. The next setting is audio. You could switch from the switch is /audio-mode : and your option. 0 means to redirect the audio to the machine in front of you, redirect locally, which is the machine in front of you, so the sound will not play on the server, but will play on the computers next to you. If you switch it to 1, it means the audio will be on the server. So if the server is in another building in another country, then they'll hear the sounds. They'll hear sounds, and you won't hear anything where you're sitting. Or 2 means none, no sound. And then more specifically, you could choose /sound, and that'll port it to your sound system. And if you want to get more detailed, you could add a colon and then more options. Sys means audio on your local client, and then you want to get more specific, you say alsa, which is a sound system on Linux, which I think is being replaced by Post Audio, I forget, but that would be the option. Just /sound should be enough to go on your default audio. So you don't really need the other options. You don't need to worry about the other options. And if you want to port your local microphone to the server, you can do that with /microphone. And that may or may not work also because of the settings of your Windows machine, your Windows 10 machine. Okay, and there might be other problems, such as either you can play audio on your local machine, or you can use redirect the microphone, and it has to switch between one or the other, not both. Or if you could get it to work both, that is a possibility to either have both sound playing and microphone being used at the same time. But as far as I know, only one or the other works. For keyboard, I'm in the US, so for me it's /KBD:US. If it's not set, then it'll try to take from your local machine settings. It'll try to guess. And I haven't had any problems. I've used it with or without this switch, and it didn't cause any issues. So if you don't set it, it'll just take your local keyboard anyway. And then if your server, for example, if you're virtualizing and you can use a different, or if you just wanted to choose a different port, you can choose a different port with the ports switch here, which is /port: and your port number. The standard port number is 3389, but I've used different port numbers without any issues, because on a remote machine I'm running virtual machines. I have dozens of virtual machines. I can't have it only one port, so I use many different ports. I mean, there are other ways to get out of that. You can use SSH tunneling, secure shell tunneling. Then you could just use any port you like. Then you don't have to worry. Then you only need to open up one port on your remote machine, on your remote machine's firewall. So if your firewall is restricted and you only have SSH output, or if you have any output, you can. That's for another subject. But you can tunnel using any port via SSH. So if your remote machine, the firewall, your corporate firewall somewhere on the remote machine, only allows HTTP and HTTPS, you can repurpose one of those ports. But that's for another video. If you want full screen, that's a possibility. You can type in /F, and that'll just get you to full screen. So your remote machine will take over your entire screen, and that means it'll just take it over. I I haven't found a way to get out of that yet. I haven't researched it, but I'm sure there's a way to get out of it, but I haven't done it yet. Okay, so maybe later I'll do some research and post the answer to that. But that's the full screen. And if for some reason for authentication you can put in /p and colon and then your password if you want your password to show. But the problem with that is it's very insecure. If you don't use this option at all, it'll prompt you for a password, which is the way to go. But if for some reason you want to pass the password on the command line, if you type in /p colon and the password, it'll show up and it'll be recorded in your Linux shell command line history, which is the standard bash shell would be .bash_history, and that password will show up, and anyone who has access to a machine can see the password. So obviously not safe unless you know what you're doing, unless you have a very good reason to do that. Okay, and depending on your connection, you can change the performance of the of your session by using /network colon, and the options are auto, LAN, WAN, broadband, and modem. So if you leave it alone, it'll automatically choose. But it would be better if you just set it to force a setting. So if you're remote, then the least bandwidth, the connection, if you want to connect using a very low bandwidth, the option to use is modem, MODEM. Slightly faster would be broadband. Slightly faster than that would be WAN, and then if you're local, then use LAN, LAN. If your machine's in the same building. So I locally, right now I'm using LAN. So you can watch videos using RDP. You can share your local resources. So let's say you have some files on your local desktop, on your local hard drive, and you want to transfer it to the remote machine. You can do that using the option called drive. So it's /drive, and replace my stuff with an arbitrary name. You can call it whatever you want, a comma, and then the full path of your drive. So here I have /temp, but you can place it with anything you like. It has to be a valid path on your local drive. So it's not complete. So it's not arbitrary. It's an arbitrary location. Any complete path to a folder without a trailing slash. So the folder's temp. Do not put a trailing slash. So once you do that and you access your, you make a connection to the remote machine, and you open up File Explorer, which is the Windows key and the letter E, and if you scroll down, you'll see on the left column, you'll see a new drive appear with the same name as, like for me, I'm using mystuff. You can, a drive will appear based on whatever you call it, whatever name you gave it. And if you want to share clipboard, you can choose the option /clipboard. I have +clipboard, but / and plus do the same thing. This allows the clipboard contents to be transferred from one machine to the other, back and forth both ways. So if you Control C on your local machine, you can paste it on your remote machine. So you go on your remote machine and you hit Control V, it will actually paste it there. It's a very basic. If you have a slow connection, if it's a remote machine on the internet somewhere, you might want to remove the wallpaper with -wallpaper. that'll disable the wallpaper on your desktop background on your remote machine, so that it won't redraw the background. That way it'll just draw a black screen, it'll just send them a bunch of zeros, so that'll be a lot faster than if it were to repaint the background every time you move your mouse. And any kind of effects, if you want better performance with video, you can type in the switch /RFX, which will it drops frames, but the videos will look like it's playing better. It will appear better. Instead of trying to play every frame, it'll just drop frames. And then ignore certificate /cert-ignore. This switch might not work anymore because of security level. Because you cannot connect to when you connect to a Windows 10, you have to go through a lot of security checks anyway. So this probably won't work. But I should include it for reference in case you see it. So here is my monitor, and I got the Raspberry Pi running, and here's the command. I'm going to scroll up, and when I do that, it'll bring up password. I have to put in the password, of course. So type in the password, and it shows up. Flicker a few times, but here's my remote machine, and of course you get a little X there that you could exit out of, and here's the command that I use. So in case you want to just type it in and you're wondering why yours is not working, why mine is. It's in this order. If you type it in this order, it should be okay. Okay, let's start again. It's xfreerdp, and you got your dimensions. You got the keyboard switch, the user, whatever your username is on your remote machine. This you have to know. Bitrate, audio. My drive sharing, performance, clipboard, and then V is for the IP of your remote machine. I don't know why they use V instead of IP, but it's the IP of your remote machine. Okay, so I'll do that again, and then once again the prompts for your password. And does that, and you can play videos. So here I am with my YouTube. So you see it's very jerky. The video is kind of jerky, but that's because of the Raspberry Pi. If you're using a regular full desktop, it will actually play very smoothly. It should not break up or anything. But on the Raspberry Pi, it's still pretty good, considering it's a Pi. It's a limited processor, limited memory speed. And again, this is only an issue with slower machines like the Raspberry Pi. So the video does play, it's jerky. The audio is audio just makes strange sounds. You'll hear like squealing. But then it fixes itself, so it does play. I'm gonna skip this guy actually. So he starts talking like a chipmunk. And remember my drive sharing. So when I share my local resources, and I called it my stuff, it shows up as my stuff, and then when I click on it, it's like a regular drive. It just shows up as another mapped drive, and it does it automatically. You don't have to map it on your remote machine. You don't have to do any mapping. It just shows up. So if it doesn't show up, you did something wrong. And here are all the files. So it shows up on Windows Explorer. So you open up Windows Explorer and you scroll down and you see the resource name, and you click on it and you get all the files. And these are the files on my local machine. Okay, right, so there's my connection to my Windows 10 machine on a Raspberry Pi. And thanks for your time, thanks for watching, have a good day.